please join me in welcoming Donna to Watermark.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome. Thank you for coming. I think she explained to you that we had a little problem with getting the books here on time. We do have a few here for anybody that might be out of town that would like to purchase one today. They certainly could. And before I go in and talk a little bit about the book, I just want to share a few things about myself. And Shirley kind of explained a couple of things. But and don't worry, this isn't going to be some long, drawn-out speech. Like King Henry VIII said to his third wife, I won't be keeping you long. So with that in mind, like she said, I pretty much grew up in Wichita, Kansas. In 1960, I moved away, got married, went up to South Dakota. Gosh, it must have been the late 70s when I came back to Wichita. Was here for a while, moved away again in '83 up to Wilson, Kansas. Anybody know where Wilson, Kansas is? It's a little Czech capital of Kansas. Back to Wichita I came. I think it was in 2006, up to New York I went. And we were just getting ready to go into Manhattan. And the day was September 11th of 2001. Does that sound familiar with anybody? We were actually on our way to Manhattan, and so here's Manhattan, here's the Hudson, and then here's New Jersey. And we went out and actually seen one of the towers come down. Rather devastating. So we couldn't get out of there fast enough. So we went up to New York for I think it was a little over 2 years, came back to Wichita again. So now here we are at 2006. And then came back to Wichita, and then in 2006 we was out to California. My daughter was interested in the entertainment industry, so out there we went. Welcome. Hi. And went out there for about 8.5 years, and now I'm back in Wichita again. So maybe this circle has completed. So that's kind of a little bit about the history. As far as the book goes, and I think the book kind of was planted maybe when I was up in Wilson, little town of less than 1,000, I think. Right, Sherry? I think Sherry was up there with me. Yep. It's not even 1,000 now, is it? Maybe this is where the seed got planted because in a small town they say everybody knows everybody's business. So true. So, but the book was way back on the burner. And I think when it really came to where I decided to sit down and write the book was when I moved back to Wichita about 4 years ago. So the book kind of starts out and it kind of explains our temperaments. I found out about my temperaments when I was in high school many moons ago. And it kind of talked about this is kind of how you think, this is kind of how you feel. It has nothing to do with your horoscope or how the stars are lined up. It's actually your DNA. So everybody has a certain temperament. You usually have a combination of two, so that kind of goes into that. I kind of explain why it's so important to know the difference between a man and a woman, besides the physical. There's a lot more involved emotionally and psychologically, so I kind of go into that. And then I go into a lot of things that society is actually attacking us on family life. It's kind of devastating. We've actually came to the point where we actually think that we can create our own truth. Well, let's say I say that painting is red and blue, and somebody else said it's green and yellow. Somebody else says, actually, it's pink and purple. Well, you can't create your own truth, can you? It has to come from a higher power and actually takes the meaning out of life. So I kind of attack that philosophy. And then I go into, toward the end is, I don't know if you have heard of like the New Age movement, The Secret, the Law of Attraction. Has anybody heard of that in here? It's getting quite popular. And you even will see a lot of it in magazines where, again, you can create your own happiness, you can make your own laws, and I really attack that philosophy. I actually have a list about this long in the book about like that, of all the people who promote it, and they're making millions off of it. And I think I have a website up here, well, it's maybe up there, where this lady, she was a very nice lady, and she went into this law of attraction, the New Age movement, excellent conditions, a very good very good reason for going into it. And she said her life was a living hell. And if you check up on the poster, it'll show a website, the New Age Deception, where she explains the damage it does. So that's pretty much where the book ends. And a lot of my philosophies and my teachings and my religion. So anybody has any questions? Yes.
Do you have another book you're working on?
Oh my goodness, thank you, Mike. When I was going to go into kind of talking about my background, I grew up with 7 brothers and 1 sister. And I was kind of gone most of the time, but in the 70s and 80s, about 3 of my brothers took up this boxing. And they traveled all over the world. They had a lot of interesting stories that I'm going to bring out in the next book. And that'll be coming up. We're kind of working on that. And again, they were Wichita growing. I don't know if a few of you know about them, don't you?
I think I heard of them.
One of them is Mike Hallisey, and this is the daughter of Mike Hallisey. And put Cowtown in there because Joe would love to introduce his talents in there too. He's my oldest brother. But it's going to have a lot of adventures and a lot of ups and downs, some laughter and some tears. So we're looking forward to getting that book going. Other than that, I think anyone who wants to pre-order a book, you got anything to say, Mike?
Your mic fell off.
Where'd it go?
I got Mike here to watch over me.
Technical support team.
There you go. So some of the books didn't come in that I expected to. They're running short. They'll be in here Monday, but we can pre-order your books, and there's about, I don't know, I think we got about 6 here. Somebody wants to purchase one right now, but and we'll have the books here at Watermark that you can pick up if you choose to have one. Any other questions?
Is there, after you have written a book like that,
Yes.
is there something that afterwards you say, gosh, I wish I would have put that in there?
Absolutely. I might have went into a little more detail about some other subjects, but I wanted to make it kind of short and sweet, and I had to cover a lot of, actually covered a lot of topics in a very brief and concise. I could have went into a lot more detail on some of the subjects that I wrote about, but there probably could have been introduced some more things. I just didn't want to drag it out too terribly long. I think I covered a lot of important things that needed to be covered, and wrapped it up. You know, it's an easy read, 126 pages. Yep. Yes.
What's your target audience?
Well, the target audience, considering the fact that it covers relationships, you can start talking about relationships from a very early age, and even into teenagers, even into young adults, even to people of all ages in here, because it relates to relationships, and that kind of covers a lot of territory, right?
Donna, did I
Yes.
read correctly on your blog or your website that
Yes.
it's not just about intimate relationships, but even friendships and family relationships?
Friendships, relationships. I mean, when you talk about relationships, that's pretty general, isn't it? It can cover a lot of areas, yes. And then I kind of explain why we're having kind of difficulties because of society. And we've come to the conclusion, society, that we can create our own truth. That'd kind of take the meaning out of life, wouldn't it? Yeah. I think I can quote Ben Shapiro, who said, as human beings, we kind of suck at trying to create our own truth. And yeah. Yes?
Donna, you shared a very compelling story as a parent with me when you were a parent, young parent, and your son
Fell in the well?
had a near miss.
Yes.
And I'm interested if you could story, and then tell us what you learned as your son grew up after that.
Yes. The year was about 1971, and I was up in Beersford, South Dakota. The twins were like 18 months. One of the twins are here, Sherry. Hi, Sherry. Two of them, they're Sherry and Gary. I'm sorry. I just was so concentrated on my little speech that Sherry and Gary. They were about 18 months, and we lived in this big farmhouse. It was about a mile south of town, and we had a cistern that we actually used. We put water in there, and we drew it out, and somehow it came through the pipes and up in the kitchen and all that kind of stuff. But I was standing at the kitchen window, and I usually have the radio on. I think Susie and Cindy was in the living room. I was out in the kitchen, and I heard this strange, it was just kind of like a thump. And boy, I thought, what the heck? And I looked out. There was Sherry just looking around like this. And where one was, the other one was. So automatically I knew something was wrong. I think I gave out a holler, Susie, because I kind of thought she was out there. Ran out there, and here this lid was, it was kind of pushed back a little bit. And when I looked in the well, there Gary was, 18 months, sprawled out like this, and he had a diaper on. I'm assuming that brought him up to that bloated diaper. But you could tell he was kind of in shock, and his eyes were big as saucers, and I thought, the only way he's going to come out, I got to go in. Now, before I finished the story, I was about 14, and I almost drowned in a lake. So if water comes up to here, I get a little nervous. I had no idea how deep that water was in that well. I think I said a prayer, and I jumped in, and the water come up to about here. And I hollered again, Susie, and apparently she heard me, and long story short, the grandparents lived about a quarter of a mile down the road, and when I heard that screeching of the tires up by the driveway, I knew everything was okay. And so they put the ladder down, we all got out, and everything was great. I mean, I think he had a little scratch on the way here, but it was pretty scary, and what it taught me is, you know, sometimes you just realize that you can love someone else more than yourself. And I was willing to go in there and at least try to save him. So, and then when he grew up, you know, he was the only boy, kind of calm, easygoing, became a respiratory therapist, and he's looking at me, giving me the evil eye. Turned out just fine. Didn't do any brain damage. So any other questions? Okay. Anyone who would like to pre-order, and I maybe have to get Shirley here because I don't know for sure what the procedure is. I have a book here that you could, okay, go ahead, dear.
No, if you want to, we still have a few more copies of the books. If you want to buy one, just go ahead and rush up to the counter, first come, first served. If you don't get there soon enough, we've got book plates, so we'll have you pre-order a copy, and we'll give you a call when it's come in. We'll have Donna sign the book plate for you, as if she would sign the book, and then when the book comes in, we'll put the book plate in the book and you'll have a signed copy.
So I'm assuming they have to leave their name and address and all that with you?
Yep. We'll get
Okay,
that. So
okay,
just come
okay.
right up to the counter.
So anybody who wants to pre-sale, follow you? Or, okay, anybody who wants to purchase, I was giving a lot away, but I think I got about 6 or 7 here if anyone would like it. You're welcome to come on up. If you want to pre-sale, go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
like,
This is a
you
first
can
for me,
purchase
so I'm...
those- You can purchase those with us. So, we
Okay,
prefer
these
to
books
sell
here.
them through us.
Okay, so bring these books up again and let them... Oh, I learned something new today. All right, thank you again so much for coming. It's great to see you all here. I hope you will enjoy the book, and we'll see you again at the next book signing about my brothers. Okay? Thank you, thank you, thank you.